It was raining heavily that night. The sky was dark, and the streets were almost empty. Armand was driving home after a long shift at the hospital. His eyes were tired, and the sound of the wipers was the only thing keeping him awake. As he turned onto the highway, he saw something strange on the side of the road, a small car, with its hazard lights blinking. At first, he thought about driving past. It was late, the weather was bad, and he didn't know who it was. But something in his heart made him slow down. As he got closer, he saw a woman standing next to the car. She was soaked from head to toe, hugging her arms to stay warm. Her face looked scared, but she was trying to stay calm. Armand pulled over, rolled down the window, and spoke gently. "Are you okay?" The woman looked at him, surprised but relieved. "My car broke down. I've been waiting for help for over an hour." No one stopped. Armand got out of his car, took off his jacket, and gave it to her. "Here, take this. It's too cold for you to stand like this." She hesitated but then nodded. "Thank you. My name is Armand," he said. "Let me call a tow truck for you." "I'm Mihor," she replied softly. "I didn't know what to do. My phone's battery died." Armand called a nearby towing service and waited with her. They stood under his umbrella, trying to stay dry. She looked nervous, constantly checking the road. "You seem scared," Armand said. Meher hesitated. I've had a rough day. I just want to go home." He didn't ask questions. He just stood there quietly until the tow truck arrived. The driver helped load the car, and Armand offered to call a cab for her. "No need," Mehor said. "I'll manage from here. But thank you, really." She reached into her small purse, took out a notepad, and wrote something. "This is my number, in case you ever need anything." "I owe you," Armand smiled. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone should do." She gave a weak smile, then got into the tow truck and left. Armand got back in his car, feeling strange. Something about that woman, her eyes, her voice stayed in his mind. But he shook it off and drove home, unaware of what was about to begin. The next morning, the sky was clear, but Armand felt restless. He couldn't stop thinking about Mehor. Hoping she had reached home safely, he picked up his phone to send her a message. But as he was about to type, there was a knock at his door. He opened it to find two men in plain clothes. "Mr. Armand?" one of them asked. "Yes. We're with the local investigation team. We need to ask you a few questions." Armand frowned. "Is something wrong?" The taller man pulled out a photo and showed it to him. It was Mehor. "Did you see this woman last night?" Armand's heart sank. "Yes. Her car was broken down. I helped her and called a tow truck." The shorter man asked. "Do you know where she went after that?" "She left with the tow truck. I thought she was going home." The two men looked at each other. "Sir, this woman never made it home. She hasn't been seen since last night." Armand blinked. "What?" "But I only helped her. That's all." The men stepped inside. "We're not saying you did anything wrong, but right now, you were the last person seen with her." Armand's mind raced. This has to be a mistake. "Do you have any proof of the tow truck call?" "Yes. It's in my call history," Armand said quickly, showing them his phone. The number was there, along with the time. The men took notes, and asked more questions. "What time did you meet her? Did she seem afraid? Did she mention anyone following her?" Armand remembered her checking the road often, her nervous eyes, but he didn't say much. He didn't want to say anything that would make him look suspicious. After the men left, Armand sat on the couch, confused and scared. What had happened to her? Where did she go? And why had the police come to him? Later that day, Armand went to his car to drive to the clinic. As he sat in the driver's seat, he remembered something. His car had a small dash cam installed. When it recorded everything on the road, he quickly took out the memory card and plugged it into his laptop. He watched the video from last night. It showed him pulling over, getting out, and speaking to Mehor. It showed the two of them standing under the umbrella. Nothing looked strange until something caught his eye. In the background, just beyond the trees near the road, a figure stood still. Armand paused the video and zoomed in. There was someone there, someone watching them. The figure never moved, just stood in the rain. No umbrella, no car, no reason to be there. Armand's heartbeat sped up. He had missed it before, but now, it was clear. Someone had been watching. He sat back in his chair, staring at the screen. Who was that, and why were they there? Suddenly, his simple act of kindness didn't feel so simple anymore. Something bigger was happening, and Armand had just stepped into the middle of it. Armand couldn't sleep that night. The image from the dashcam kept flashing in his mind, a dark figure standing still in the rain, just watching him and Mehor from the trees. The man never moved, never came forward, just stood there in silence like a shadow. He kept replaying the footage, hoping it was just a trick of light or maybe someone passing by, but no, the figure was real. And the strange part was, Mehor never looked in that direction, as if she already knew someone was there. The next morning, Armand printed out a still image from the video. The figure was blurry, but clearly human. He took it to the police station, hoping it would help their investigation. "I found this in my dashcam footage," he told the officer behind the desk. "It's from the night Mehor went missing. Someone was watching us." The officer took a print, glanced at it, then sighed. "It's not clear enough to identify anyone. Could just be a bystander." Armand leaned forward. "Bystander? In the middle of the night? In the rain? Without a car? The officer shook his head. We'll add it to the case file, but don't expect much. Armand left the station frustrated. He felt like no one was taking this seriously. He was trying to help, but it was like the system didn't care. Still, he couldn't ignore his gut. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That evening, after work, Armand returned to the spot where he had helped Mehar. The road was quiet again. He parked his car and walked toward the place near the trees, where the figure had been standing. The grass was still wet, but something caught his eye, half buried in the mud. A scarf, light pink, torn on one side. He picked it up and his chest tightened. It looked just like the scarf Mehar was wearing that night. He turned to leave but suddenly felt like someone was watching him. He looked around quickly. Trees, silence, no movement. But the feeling stayed. He got into his car and drove off fast. His hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. That night, just before midnight, someone knocked on his door. Armand froze. He wasn't expecting anyone. He looked through the peephole. No one was there. He slowly opened the door and found a small, brown box sitting on his welcome mat. There was no note, no name, just a box. He picked it up carefully and brought it inside. His heart pounded as he opened it. Inside was something small and familiar. Mehor's necklace, the one she had been wearing the night they met. Armand stepped back, shocked. How could this be here? He looked around his apartment. Nothing seemed touched, but someone had clearly been close enough to leave this, close enough to send a message. He sat down on the floor, the necklace in his hand. He now knew that this was not a normal missing person case. Someone didn't want her found, and someone didn't want him involved. But it was too late now. He was already deep in it. The next day, Armand took the scarf and the necklace to the police. Again, this was left at my door, he said, and I found this scarf near the trees. The officer gave him a tired look. And what do you want us to do? Take this seriously. Armand snapped. She's missing. Someone is watching me. This proves it. Another officer nearby leaned over and whispered something to the one at the desk. Then the man stood up and motioned Armand toward a hallway. They entered a small room, and the officer closed the door behind them. Look, he said quietly. Off the record, we believe you. But this case, there's more to it. We've been told to stay out of it. By who higher-ups, we don't ask. Armand was stunned. So you're just going to do nothing? The officer looked guilty. Sometimes we can't fight the people behind the curtain. Armand left the station, anger burning inside him. If the police wouldn't help, he would do it alone. He spent the next few days searching online, digging into Mehor's name. Her social media was deleted, but he found an old comment she had made on a public forum a few months ago. It was short, almost hidden. They're watching me. I should have never taken those files. Files. What? Files. He searched more and discovered that Mehor had once worked for a private data company. Big money, big clients. But she left suddenly without explanation. Rumors said she had access to confidential information, things she wasn't supposed to see that night. Armand sat in front of his laptop, connecting the pieces. Mehar was scared. She was running. And the night he helped her, she was probably being followed. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Stop looking. This isn't your fight. He stared at the screen. His fingers shook. He tried to call the number, but it didn't connect. Then came another message. She should have stayed quiet. So should you. Armand's blood ran cold. He turned off his phone and checked all his windows and locks. But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. They were watching him. They were warning him. And soon, they might do more than just leave messages. But he couldn't stop now. He had to find Mehar Evan, if it meant risking everything, because what started as an act of kindness had become... Armand didn't leave his apartment the next day. The warning messages kept repeating in his mind. He checked every window twice, every door 3 times. He unplugged his TV, put tape over his laptop camera, and turned off his phone. Still, the fear didn't go away. Someone out there knew his name, his face, and now his address. They had left Mehor's necklace on his doorstep without being seen. That meant they could reach him anytime, and that he was being watched more closely than he thought. But hiding wouldn't solve anything. Mehor was still missing, and now it was clear she was running from something serious. Something bigger than just a company or a simple case. Armand opened his laptop again and went back to digging. He used an old email account to search in private forums, places where whistleblowers and truth seekers posted anonymously. He typed Mehor data leak, private firm disappearance. After a few minutes, one reply appeared. Username, Watcher23 message. If you're asking about Mehar S, don't post her name again. They track this stuff. Meet me, I have info. No phones. Just paper. Midnight. Abandoned bus station. Sector 11. Armand read the message twice. It felt like a trap, but it was also his only lead. That night, he left home wearing a black hoodie and cap. He took nothing except a pen, notebook, and a flashlight. No phone, no digital trace. He reached the abandoned bus station just before midnight. The place was silent, dark, with broken lights flickering above. A few stray dogs barked. In the distance, then he heard footsteps. A young man in glasses, with a worn-out jacket, appeared from the shadows. He looked nervous, kept glancing behind him. You're the guy looking for Mehor, Armand nodded. Do you know where she is? No, but I know why she's gone. The man pulled out a piece of folded paper and handed it to Armand. This is a list of file names she copied before quitting. Confidential contracts, bribe payments, illegal data sales. Big stuff. If these files go public, some very powerful people will fall. Who are they? Politicians, businessmen, even. Some law enforcement. They used her company to spy on people, Mayhor found out. She tried to report it, but before she could, she vanished. Armand's throat went dry. So why are you helping me? The man laughed bitterly. Because I used to work there too. I saw what they did to the last guy who asked too many questions. I ran before they could find me. He looked around one last time. Whatever you do, don't trust anyone. Not the police, not the media, not even your own friends. Then he walked away into the night. Armand opened the folded paper. It had no official stamps. Just code names, payment logs, and initials. He didn't understand much of it, but he knew one thing: it was dangerous. He stuffed it in his pocket and went home. The next morning, Armand sat in front of his laptop. Again, he scanned the documents into a secure folder and began comparing the initials with known names in the media. Some matched. One was a police officer. Another was a well-known judge. The third made his heart race. CI, owner of a powerful data security company, and also Meher's former boss. He was close now, but close meant danger. That evening, he received another message. Last warning. Drop the files. Forget the girl, or you'll disappear next. Armand didn't reply. Instead, he drove across the city to a small tech repair shop owned by his old college friend Faison. If there was anyone he could trust, it was him. Faison looked surprised to see Armand. Bro, you okay? You look like you haven't slept in days. I need your help, Armand said. But you can't ask questions. I just need to copy these files and hide them somewhere safe. Offline, Faison agreed and helped him burn the files onto a blank CD. Then they locked it inside a hidden compartment in Faison's shop. If anything happens to me, Armand said, give this to a journalist named Asma Iqbal. She'll know what to do. Armand, what's going on? But Armand just shook his head. It's better you don't know. As he drove back home, the streets felt different, quieter. He checked his mirrors. A black SUV was 2 cars behind. It stayed with him through 3 turns. Armand didn't go home. Instead, he made a sharp right into a crowded shopping market and parked. He slipped through the back alleys and waited. 10 minutes passed. The SUV slowly drove by and disappeared. They were following him now. That night, he didn't sleep. Every noise outside made him jump. But the worst was still waiting. Just before sunrise, someone banged on his door. Not knocked, banged. He grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly approached. Who is it? He asked. Silence. Then a soft voice. It's me. Armand froze. He opened the door slowly. Mehar was standing there, alive. She looked thinner, her clothes dirty, and her face pale, but her eyes were still sharp. He pulled her inside, quickly, and locked the door. You're alive. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I didn't know where else to go. I saw your name in the news. I knew they were watching you. Armand stared at her. Where have you been? Everyone thinks you're gone. I've been hiding, she whispered. Running. They tried to kill me twice, but I escaped. And now, I need your help. Armand sat her down, handed her water, and waited. She looked at him and said, they know you have the files. I do, he replied. But why are they so scared of them? Because the files prove everything, Mahor said. They've been spying on citizens, selling private data, manipulating court cases. If this gets out, the entire system will fall apart. Armand looked at her with disbelief. And they were willing to kill you. And me. To protect that, Mihar nodded slowly. They're not done yet. Before Armand could speak, the power in the apartment suddenly went out, and in the darkness, a red light from a camera flashed once in the corner of the room. They weren't alone. The apartment fell into darkness, the only light coming from a faint red glow near the ceiling. Armand's heart dropped. That light didn't belong there. It was a hidden camera, small, barely visible, but active. Someone had been watching them inside his home. He rushed toward it, pulled a chair, and tore it from the wall. The light went out, but the damage was already done. Whoever had installed it had already seen Mehar. And now they knew she was alive. Mehar backed into the corner, panic rising on her face. We have to go now. Armand didn't argue. He grabbed a backpack and stuffed it with water, the file printouts, some cash, and clothes. Mehar changed quickly into one of his hoodies to cover herself. Within minutes, they slipped out through the back door and disappeared into the morning fog. They didn't take his car. That would be too easy to trace. They walked for over an hour, staying off the main roads. Finally, they reached an old, closed bookstore, owned by Armand's late uncle. No one had entered in years. Armand still had the key. Inside, the dust-covered shelves stood like silent guards, and the air smelled of paper and time. This is the safest place I know, Armand said. Mehar collapsed onto a chair, her body weak, but her mind alert. I don't know how long we have. Armand placed the files on the table. Tell me everything from the beginning. No more half-truths. Mehar nodded, her voice soft. I worked at Zycorp for 2 years. It was a data management company, or that's what we were told. But one night, I stayed late and found a locked folder on the internal server. I don't know why, but I opened it. Inside were files labeled with people's names, phone calls, bank details, even private conversations from inside their homes. Armand frowned. You mean they were spying on people? Yes, she said. Hundreds of them. Judges, lawyers, journalists, even normal citizens. Anyone who spoke against the system. I tried to report it anonymously, but the next day, someone followed me home. That's when I ran. She took a deep breath. I copied some of the files before leaving. I thought if I had proof, someone would believe me. But they found out, and the hunt began. Armin leaned back, trying to process it all. And the man watching us from the trees that night? Not their first time tracking me. I think they were already close when you stopped to help. After I left in the tow truck, they blocked the road and dragged me out. I escaped that night, by hiding under a bridge. I've been moving place to place since then. Armand felt a chill crawl up his spine. He had stepped into a war without even knowing it. And now, there was no turning back. He opened the files again. Among the names and logs, one stood out, Rouchede, listed as a senior officer in law enforcement. Next to his name was a note, protect at all costs. Paid $50,000 month. That name, Armand said, pointing. He was one of the officers. Who questioned me? Mayhor nodded slowly. They're everywhere. That's why I couldn't go to the police. Suddenly, there was a knock on the back door. Both of them froze. 3 slow knocks, then silence. Armand crept toward the door, his heart pounding. He picked up a metal rod from the floor. Who's there? A voice replied quietly. Faison. Armand opened the door just enough to peek out. It really was Faison, his friend from the tech shop. He looked shaken. I had to find you, Faison whispered. They came to my shop. 2 men, they knew about the CD. Armand pulled him inside and locked the door. What did you do? I told them I didn't know anything, but they searched the place. They didn't find the CD, but they left me a warning. He lifted his shirt to reveal bruises on his ribs. I'm sorry, Faison said. I shouldn't have helped, but I couldn't ignore what you said. Mayhor stepped forward. They're closing in. We need to move fast. Armand made a decision. We need to get these files to someone who can expose everything. Mayhor, do you trust Asma Iqbal, the journalist? She asked. She tried to help me once before. She's one of the few not bought. Armand and Mayhor ran through the narrow streets, trying not to look back. The morning sun had just begun to rise, but the shadows around them felt darker than night. They didn't know who was chasing them now, but the message was clear. The place was no longer safe. The enemy had found them again. With every step, their danger grew. They stopped in a crowded market to catch their breath. The crowd offered cover, but they couldn't stay long. Mayhor clutched the flash drive tightly. It held everything: names, files, payments, proof. If they lost it now, everything would be over. We need to hide, Armand said. Somewhere. They won't expect. Mayhor looked around. Her face was pale from exhaustion. I know a place, but we'll need to move fast. They boarded a local bus heading toward the old part of the city. As the bus rattled through the streets, Mayhor whispered, there's an old caretaker's house near the abandoned school where my uncle used to work. No one goes there anymore. It's quiet. The ride felt endless. Every stop made their hearts race, expecting men in black coats or police uniforms to appear, but no one came. After an hour, they got off near a broken wall and followed a small, dirt path to a half-collapsed house covered in vines and dust. Inside, it was dark and cold. Cobwebs hung from the ceilings, and old newspapers were still lying on the floor, but it was quiet and hidden. They locked the door, pulled down a curtain, and sat on the floor. For a moment, there was silence. Then Mayhor spoke, her voice shaky. I keep thinking, what if we fail? What if this all ends here? Armand looked at her, then at the flash drive. We won't. We've come too far. They're scared because they know we have the truth. That means we're winning. She nodded, wiping her eyes. They took turns sleeping, one always awake while the other rested. When it was Armand's turn to stay up, he opened a notebook and began writing everything: dates, names, what happened each day, so even if something happened to them, someone could follow the path they had walked. But late that night, Armand heard something, a soft crunch outside, footsteps. He shook Mayhor awake. Stay quiet, he whispered. The footsteps grew closer. A faint light shone through the broken window. Someone had a flashlight. Armand picked up a rusty iron pipe from the corner. He motioned for Mayhor to hide behind an old cupboard. The door creaked slowly. Then a voice, Armand. Mayhor, it was Faizan. Armand opened the door quickly and pulled him inside. What are you doing here? Faison was sweating and breathing hard. They took Asma. What? Mayhor gasped. She tried to stall them, but they forced their way in. I was outside the building, trying to reach her. I saw them take her in a black van. I followed as far as I could, but I lost them near the docks. Armand closed his eyes. She gave us the flash drive. It has everything, Faison nodded. Then we have one last chance. There's a journalist I know, Saad Malik. He works for an international news agency. He's honest. If we give it to him, he can publish everything safely, even from outside the country. Armand agreed. Let's do it. The next morning, the three of them took the train to another city where Saad worked. The journey was slow and tense. They changed trains 3 times, watching every passenger, every eye that stayed on them too long. When they reached Saad's office, they were stopped at the gate. A security guard looked them up and down. Suspicious Faison whispered something in the guard's ear, handed him a folded note, and the man finally let them in. Inside, Saad greeted them with urgency. "You brought the files." Armin handed over the flash drive. "Everything's in there. We need it out in the open test." Saad nodded. "I'll have my team start verifying. If this is real, and I believe it is, we'll publish in 24 hours. It will go global." Mahor stepped forward. "They'll come for you too." "I know," Saad replied. "But this story is bigger than fear." They left the building quietly. Saad promised a message once the files were live, but just as they stepped onto the street, a black SUV turned the corner fast. "There!" someone shouted. Armin grabbed Mihar's hand. "Run!" They sprinted through narrow lanes, dodging people, and Kart's Faison led them into a warehouse. They ducked behind old crates as the men entered, searching with flashlights. For minutes, they didn't move. Then a voice called out, "You think truth will save you? It won't. This world protects power, not honesty." Armin clenched his fists. He didn't know who the man was, but the voice sounded familiar. The men searched for a while longer, then left. The 3 stayed hidden until morning, when they returned to the hotel where they had booked a room under fake names. Armin checked his phone. A message from Saad. "It's live." He clicked the link. There it was. Exposed, secret network, involved in data theft, surveillance, and government collusion. Names, photos, proof, everything. Mahor burst into tears. It was out now. The truth was no longer theirs, it belonged to the world. That evening, news channels across the country and beyond picked up the story. Officials resigned. Protests began. Demands for justice filled the streets. Meher and Armin stayed in hiding, but for the first time in weeks, they felt a little hope. But just as they were about to sleep, a message arrived on Armin's phone. "No number. Just words. You've made powerful enemies. You should have walked away when you had the chance." Armin looked at Mahor. "They're not done," he said. Mahor nodded. "Then neither are we." The message on Armin's phone kept flashing. In his mind, "You've made powerful enemies. You should have walked away." Even though the truth was now public, even though the news was everywhere, the threats hadn't stopped. If anything, they had only grown darker. He knew that the people behind this weren't used to losing, and now that their secrets were exposed, they would come for anyone who stood in their way. The next morning, the streets were buzzing with protests. People held signs, chanted slogans, and demanded accountability. The report that Saad published had shaken the entire system. Names of powerful people were out in the open. Leaked audio recordings had gone viral. Several high-ranking officials were suspended. One of them even tried to flee the country but was arrested at the airport. Yet, amidst all the noise, Armin and Mahor stayed hidden. They watched everything from a small rented apartment under fake names. Faison stayed close, bringing food and updates. For the first time in weeks, there was a strange calm around them, but it was the kind of calm that didn't last. That evening, as the city continued to boil with anger and noise, Armin received a call from a private number. He let it ring, unsure if he should answer. On the 5th ring, he picked it up. "A low voice said, 'You think exposing us ends it?'" Armin stayed silent. "You may have shown the world a few names," the voice continued, "but we're a network. You've only cut one branch." "What do you want?" Armin asked coldly. "And the girl, turn yourselves in, or the next body they find will be someone you care about." Then the call ended. Armin looked at Faison. "They're threatening my family now." Faison's face turned pale. "Your mother?" Armin rushed to his phone and dialed his mother's number. It rang and rang. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. He stood up, grabbed his jacket. "I have to go check on her." Mahor stood too. "I'm coming with you." "No, you stay here. If anything happens to me, you still need to stay safe." She shook her head. "I'm not hiding again. We're in this together." They left the apartment quietly, taking the back roads. The city felt different now. Police were everywhere. News vans blocked intersections. Protesters waved banners. When they reached Armin's mother's house, the front door was wide open. Armin ran inside, calling her name, "Amy, Amy." No answer. The house was a mess, furniture pushed, drawers pulled open, papers scattered. In the middle of the kitchen table sat a single envelope with Armin's name written on it. He opened it slowly. Inside was a photo of his mother. She was alive, tied to a chair, looking frightened. Under the photo, a note was written. "One move, and she disappears." Mahor grabbed the photo. "They've taken her. They want you to trade yourself." Armin felt his chest tighten. He had dragged his mother into this. All he wanted to do was help a stranger, and now his whole life was torn apart. Faison, who had followed behind, stepped forward. "We'll get her back, but we have to be smart." They returned to the apartment and called Saad. When he picked up, Armin explained everything. "I think they want to silence the story," Saad said. "Now that the world knows, they're going for revenge." "What do we do?" Armin asked. "We put them in a trap," Saad replied. "We offer a deal. A trade, but we turn it into proof. Live recorded. Let the world see who they really are. It was dangerous, but it was the only option. They sent out a message through an untraceable line. Arman offered to meet at an old warehouse outside the city to trade himself for his mother. The reply came within minutes. One word, agreed. That night, under heavy clouds, Arman arrived at the warehouse alone. He carried nothing but a flashlight and a hidden mic. Mahar and Faison watched from a distance. Ready with cameras and a drone, Saad had arranged to film everything. The warehouse was cold and empty. Shadows danced along the walls. Arman stepped forward. A man in a black coat stepped out from the shadows. "Where's the drive?" Arman held up his hands. "I don't have it. I just want my mother." Another figure came forward, his mother, blindfolded, her hands tied. She was pushed forward roughly. Arman's blood boiled. "Let her go." The man smirked. "You want her? Take her. But know this. Next time we won't be this generous." Suddenly, lights flooded the warehouse, bright, blinding. The drone hovered above. The days that followed felt like waking from a long nightmare. Arman and Mahor watched the city come alive with a different kind of energy. Hope. For the first time, people were speaking freely. Protesters weren't just shouting, they were being heard. Whistleblowers were stepping forward from every corner. Inspired by Mihor's courage, what had started as a small act of kindness had turned into a movement. But even with the news covering the arrests, the truth broadcasts, and the shutdown of Zycorp, Arman couldn't fully relax. He knew how power worked. When one hand was cut, another reached from the shadows. He could feel it that quiet before another storm. They had moved to a safer apartment under government protection, thanks to the clean unit officers who had remained loyal to justice. Arman's mother was recovering too, slowly adjusting to a life where her son was being called a national hero. One morning, Arman was flipping through the news when a strange silence filled the room. Mahor stood by the window, frozen, staring. Outside he walked over. "What is it?" She pointed down at the street. Parked just across the road was a silver car. No one came out, no one moved, but something about it felt wrong. "That car's been there since last night," Mahor whispered. Arman narrowed his eyes. The windows were tinted. The engine wasn't running. It just sat there like it was waiting. "We call Saad," he said. Now, within the hour, Saad arrived with 2 trusted security officers. They approached the car cautiously, guns drawn. But when they opened the door, it was empty except for a note left on the driver's seat. Arman read it aloud. "The fire may burn now, but the ashes still belong to us." Saad looked at him. This isn't over. And he was right. That same night, Faison called in a panic. His shop had been broken into. The place was trashed, computers destroyed, hard drives missing. Nothing was stolen except the original files and the camera footage from the warehouse meeting. "They're erasing the evidence," Faison said, his voice shaking. "They're trying to rewrite the truth." It was a strategy Arman hadn't considered. Clean up the mess quietly, erase the trail, and return when the world forgets. "We need to act fast," Mahor said. "We need to make this permanent. Public memory fades. If we don't lock the truth somewhere safe and undeniable, it'll be like it never happened." Saad made a plan. He arranged an interview live international, broadcasted on multiple networks. A one-time no-cuts conversation where Arman and Mahor would tell everything from start to end. No filters, no edits. The night before the interview, Mahor sat on the balcony with Arman. "Do you think this will finally end it?" she asked. Arman looked at the stars. "I don't know, but I know we'll finally speak without fear." The next day, the world watched. The interview began with Saad introducing them, followed by clips from the leaked footage. Then, in their own words, Arman and Mahor told the world how a flat tire on a rainy night had led to the fall of a secret empire. They revealed names, showed documents, and exposed every threat, every betrayal, every truth. The live stream broke viewership records. Comments poured in from every country. People cheered, cried, and demanded more action. But even as the world celebrated, danger still lingered. Hours after the interview ended, Arman received another message. "Heroes fall. Stories fade. We don't." Mahor's face went pale reading it. "Enough," Arman said. "We exposed the last card." He pulled out something he hadn't shared before, not even with Mahor. A second flash drive. "I made a backup before we left Faison's shop," he said. "It has names we haven't touched yet. People operating internationally. The ones hiding behind the local players." Saad's eyes widened. This is bigger than I thought." They agreed to send the drive to an international tribunal along with a petition signed by hundreds of thousands of people demanding action. A week later, global investigations began. Embassies were contacted, bank accounts frozen. Even CEOs from other countries were summoned. It was no longer a national story, it had become global. But just as things seemed to calm, tragedy struck. One of the clean officers who had helped them, Officer Hamza, was found dead in a staged car crash. The media called it an accident. But Arman knew better. Hamza had told him the day before, "I think someone's following me." The loss hit hard. At Hamza's funeral, Arman stood in silence. Another man had paid the price for truth, and yet he knew walking away wasn't an option anymore. Too many lives had been touched. Too much blood had been spilled. Later that evening, Mahor sat beside him, her hand in his. Do you regret helping me that night? Armand shook his head. Not for a second. She gave a sad smile. You didn't just help me, you changed everything. They watched the sun set together, not in silence, but in a quiet understanding. This war wasn't just about Mahor anymore. It wasn't just about Armand's choice. It was about a world that needed people to stand when it was easier to kneel. They were no longer just survivors of a story. They had become the story itself. And, though the enemies had stepped into the shadows again, this time, the world was watching with open eyes. The wind whispered through the trees as Armand stood on the rooftop of the shelter, looking down at the quiet street below. The city had begun to return to its usual rhythm, but it felt different now, like something heavy had finally been lifted. Still, Armand couldn't shake the feeling that this was only a pause, not an ending. The world had heard their story. The interview had spread like wildfire. Newspapers across continents printed Mahor's name. The girl who spoke, they called her Armand, had become the stranger who refused to walk away. But with all the noise came silence from their enemies. More threats, no more cars, no more messages. And that was what made Armand nervous. Why now? He whispered. Why go quiet? Mahor stepped beside him, a blanket around her shoulders. Maybe they're regrouping, or maybe they're done. No, Armand said softly. They never just stop. Not people like them. That evening, a news alert popped up on my phone. Another Zycorp executive had vanished, this time in another country. Officials called it an unexpected resignation, but the whistleblower community knew better. It meant the ones in power were slipping away before justice could reach them. They're running, Mahor said, scrolling through the report. The system is broken, and they're trying to disappear before it collapses. Armand stared at the screen. Then we finish this. For good? He turned to Saad with a new plan. We expose the rest, not through news this time, but through the people. Let everyone carry the story. Saad raised an eyebrow. How? We create an open platform. Armand explained. Upload the files. The proof? Everything. Anyone can view it. Anyone can download. No more single point of failure. If the truth is everywhere, they can't erase it. Saad smiled. It'll be dangerous. It's already dangerous, Mahor said. Let's just make it worth it. For the next 2 days, they worked nonstop. Faison recovered whatever fragments he could from old backups. Saad brought in ethical hackers. Mahor helped cross-check each name, each document, and when it was ready, Armand uploaded it all to a new website, truthunlocked.org. They shared the link across social media, forums, emails, and communities. It exploded. Within hours, the site crashed from too much traffic, but mirror links had already spread. People everywhere were talking. Students, lawyers, journalists, even former employees of Zycorp started speaking up. The ripple became a wave. One night, while they were monitoring the site's performance, an email arrived in Armand's inbox from unknown source at securemail.net. Subject: I was one of them, but I want out. The message was short. You don't know me, but I worked under Zycorp's intelligence unit. I saw everything. I have names you don't. Places you missed. I'm willing to testify. Meet me. Alone. Attached was a old rail yard just outside the city. Armand read it twice, then looked up at Mahor. This could be it, he said. Or it could be a trap. She reached for his hand. Then we go together. That night, under a full moon, they arrived at the rail yard. Abandoned trains lined the tracks like sleeping giants. The air was cold, filled with silence. Then footsteps approached. A young man, barely 30, wearing glasses and a faded hoodie, stepped out. He held his hands up. I'm not armed. Who are you? Armand asked. Call me Salman, he said. I used to monitor digital movements, watch people, track calls, filter threats. I saw your name months ago. I marked you as a low-risk citizen, just a guy with a job and a quiet life. But then, you picked her up. He looked at Mahor, and they moved your file to red. Mahor's voice was calm. Why are you here? Because I couldn't do it anymore, Salman said. They made me listen to families cry through phone taps. They made me destroy people who were innocent. But when your story came out, I realized I wasn't the only one who knew. He handed Armand a flash drive. This has the last set of files, hidden ones, the offshore accounts, the escape names, the ones still in power. If you leak this, there's no way for them to come back. Mahor took the drive gently. Thank you. Salman looked around, nervous. They'll come after me now, but I've made peace with that. He walked away, disappearing into the shadows. Back at the safe house, Armand opened the files. He was stunned. It wasn't just the rest of Zycorp. It included allies in other nations, politicians, judges, even top media executives who had helped cover up the surveillance operations for years. This is the endgame, Armand said. Saad helped prepare one final release. They called it the final file.